A man came across 3 stonecutters and asked them what they were doing. The first replied, "I am making a living." The second kept on hammering while he said, "I am doing the best job of stone cutting in the entire county." The third looked up with a visionary gleam in his eye and said, "I am building a cathedral." The first stonecutter is simply doing a day's work for a day's pay, for the material reward he receives in exchange for his labor. The substance of his work, the purpose of his work, the context of his work do not matter. The second stonecutter has higher aspirations. He wants to be the best. We know him well. Harvard does an outstanding job of producing students like the second stonecutter. Yearly, each of our schools enrolls a highly talented student body, and we entrust them to a faculty working at the very frontier of human knowledge. We demand that these students and faculty be excellent, for we see Harvard's own excellence reflected in them and their achievement. HBS is no different. It admits a small fraction of its thousands of applicants, and it turns out graduates who command the best jobs in finance, banking, consulting, marketing. Brilliant, analytical, highly trained, driven. They are creative and pragmatic actors who have helped bring about one of the most sustained and extraordinary periods of prosperity in our history. Now, many of those graduates are to be found in the midst of this crisis and in the midst of the efforts to resolve it. The second stonecutter is an unshakable individualist. He believes in the power of the human mind, in its capacity for reason, in the drive for quality and results, in the usefulness of reducing the complex reality to a simple equation. His world is competitive and meritocratic. It's cosmopolitan. He measures himself, he says, against the whole county, as the story has it, even the whole world. Yet somehow the vision of the second stonecutter is incomplete. The focus on the task, the competition, the virtuosity is a kind of blindness. Consumed with individual ambition, the second stonecutter misses the fundamental interconnectedness of humankind, of societies, of economies. The stonecutter fails to see there would be no stones to cut if there were not a community building a cathedral. The third stonecutter embraces a broader vision. Interesting, I think, that the parable has him building a cathedral, not a castle, not a railway station, not a skyscraper. Testimony in part, of course, to the antiquity of this tale, but revealing in other ways as well. The very menial work of stone cutting becomes part of a far larger undertaking, a spiritual as well as a physical construction. The project aspires to the heavens, transcending the earthbound, and indeed transcending the time-bound as well, for cathedrals are not built in months or even years, but over centuries. What is the meaning of this parable for us in this moment at Harvard and at HBS? Why and how do we strive to create stonecutters of the third sort? We have been reminded these past few weeks about the perils of enshrining material reward as the purpose or measure of work. We know we must do better than to create stonecutters like the first man. The second man, though, is more admirable. more like much of our rhetoric, and indeed commendable in many ways. The third stonecutter reminds us that the individual is not enough, that we want to make a difference in and for the world. Leadership that makes a difference in the world, leadership that makes the right difference in the world, must be thinking like the third stonecutter, who doesn't simply look to his left and his right to make sure that he is the best, but looks up and out with his sights on the cathedral.